Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's edition of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, and today I'm very excited to have on the co-founder and CEO of PropelX. And what is PropelX? It is an investment platform democratizing alternative investing into sciences and technology. Let's welcome to the show, Swati Chaturvedi. Hi, Swati. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for having me.
You bet. PropelX, I think we met at an investor luncheon, didn't we?
Perhaps.
I think, we know some people in common. Yes. Yeah. I think maybe, is it Alicia? I think Alicia that we know in common. So anyway, it's a small world, the investment world, and you and I are trying to make it bigger so that more women step into the venture capital world, the investment world, become angels, and realize that part of their portfolio should be diversified into this type of investing, right?
Yes, absolutely. So that is my thesis. I've written about it, that, gone are the days of 70-30 portfolio where 70 was invested in stocks and 30% in bonds. And we really should be re-looking at our portfolio allocation, primarily because alternatives are now available, right? And so it could be a 60-30-10, where 60% is in stocks, 30% is in bonds, 10% is in alternatives, or some other proportion based on your risk preference. But yes, I'm a huge supporter of that idea that alternatives should be a part of people's portfolios based on their risk preferences, of course. But yeah, 100% on that.
100%. So tell me what PropelX is and how someone can utilize it, because I know it's for investors and it's also for founders. So let's talk about how it works and how one participates in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So PropelX is an alternatives investment platform. We enable ordinary accredited investors to invest in startups and hedge funds online, and we will be introducing venture capital funds as well soon. So in other words, and this is using small check sizes. So investors can invest in a single startup using $5,000 minimums versus the standard $25,000 angel check, or they can invest into a hedge fund using a $25,000 check versus a $250,000, million plus check that they otherwise would have to write. So the thing is that these kinds of investments have been beyond the reach of ordinary people, primarily because they were limited to these cliques, and these kinds of investments happen in these, and deals happen in these private rooms. But platforms like PropelX are democratizing access. Essentially, if you have $25,000, you qualify as an accredited investor, you could invest in a hedge fund. And hedge funds, privately held assets are often higher performing. They have the potential to outperform the market. Private markets are about twice the size of public markets in the US. And more companies are saying private longer. So all of the action is in the private markets, but most people do not have access. So we are making that accessible. That's what PropelX is.
I love that. And if people wanted to find out about it, they just go to PropelX.com and learn all about it. I saw it's as easy as signing up to invest. Yes. And, I think what makes people not step into new realms is not understanding it. Right. And so, getting involved with a platform like yours kind of holds them by the hand and shows them how to get into this investment world that they have not had access to in the past. It's kind of been an old boys club. I love that you are a female founder, co-founder, and CEO of this platform. And I know that the beginnings of this was that way back in college, you started an angel group at MIT. So tell me about that, because I love what I read about that, where, you're like, it's great to invest in a platform that delivers food or something, but you wanted to do something where you're investing in something that really made an impact on the humanity and the world, right? Science and technologies that impacted the planet. So tell me about, how did you start that? I mean, here you are in college and you're starting an angel group. That's a pretty big endeavor to take on at that age.
Well, it wasn't exactly in college. I had completed my MBA and I was working in investing. So I worked at a private equity firm. But honestly, I was...
but just out of college.
Yeah, just a little bit, a few years out of. And so I really wanted to participate in startups. And I said, okay, you know what? If I'm not going to found something, maybe I can be an angel investor and participate in that way. So I visited lots of different angel groups, and this was maybe 10, 12 years ago, and everyone was investing in social, local, mobile stuff. So yes, food delivery apps, photo sharing apps and such. And somehow I didn't find them compelling. Firstly, because my background is in science and tech, and so that's what I am passionate about, I'm motivated by. But also because I feel technology has the potential to change the trajectory of humankind. So as simple as that. And nothing that I saw was compelling enough. So I said, it's time for us to maybe start a new angel group for MIT alumni, where we could invest in these potentially world-changing technology companies. And so that's what I started the MIT Angels group. And we focused it on what I started using that term at that time, deep technology, right? And so at that time, people didn't know the term. It was hard getting it across. But today, that term has picked up pace. Everyone around the world has picked up. People understand deep tech. So I'm very happy about that, because these companies are getting the attention that they deserve, because they have the potential to really improve our lives and improve the lives of billions of people around the world. So that's how I started the Angel Group, focused it on deep tech. And you're right, when we launched PropelX, PropelX was meant to be this bridge between investors and deep tech startups, right? Where the reality is that companies which may go on to become the Teslas of the world or the Genentechs, Illuminas of the world, because they're based on difficult to understand science and tech, sometimes they find it much harder to raise financing in their earlier stages. And in fact, Tesla is a case in point, where it had to be financed by Elon Musk before it kind of was financed by the rest. So when we started PropelX, it was with a mission to help finance deep tech startups, right? Over time, we have evolved ourselves. We've become more accepting to other kinds of startups. We tend to do more later stage as well, Series A on, and we tend to do hedge funds. So now it is more broad-based. The platform is more broad-based. And it should be inclusive too. We shouldn't just create this snooty little corner for deep tech. But yes, it is meant for accredited investors to invest in tech startups as well as hedge funds online using small check sizes.
Right. And people think they don't have access to things like that. That's what's so cool about what you're doing. Some people couldn't imagine, how could I ever invest in these type of things? And so here is your entree into that world. And I think you and I both agree that definitely there's not enough women investors. It's why we just produced a film that we're going to be taking around the country called Show Her the Money. And it is to encourage more women to become investors, because the reason that so many female founders are not getting funded is because there's not enough female investors, and people do tend to invest in people they identify with. So that goes for women, people of all ethnicities, BIPOC, LGBTQ. They've all been underfunded because the only investors out there were not relating to them. So the investor base has to change. And so that's what I love about what you're doing. That's game changing. You're inviting and you're democratizing it so people with even a $5,000 check can get in the game, which, by the way, as you and I both know, can be very lucrative, can be way more lucrative than the regular stock market or even real estate. So that's why part of the portfolio should be in this type of bucket, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you all welcome investors, which we've talked about, and you also welcome people applying as founders. And what's the criteria for them to apply? So do they have to be science and technology, or they could be other? And at what state can they? Because I see you do early stage and late early stage. Explain that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we do all stages. Let me be clear. And it does tend to skew later stage, to be very clear. People tend to think that platforms are for early stage only. No. We tend to skew later stage. And the reason for that is, let's be clear, startup investing or alternatives investing as a whole is risky, and you should be able to handle that risk. So one should only invest what one is able to lose without impacting their lifestyle. So this is something that should be out there. It should be clear that it is risky, but please do your due diligence and then make those investment decisions. So why do we tend to skew later stage? The highest risk is in the earliest stage opportunities. They are also potentially the higher reward, right?
Yes.
But what we do want to acknowledge is that ordinary people who are going about their jobs and daily lives, they're not spending all of their times evaluating startup technologies, right? That's not their primary job. It's not their profession. With that understanding, we felt that it would be more appropriate for us to present later stage opportunities to ordinary accredited investors. Now, we do have seed stage companies as well. We have Series A's, B's, C's, D, E, all the way up to pre-IPO. Absolutely. And so it's at all stages, that be clear. Now, to answer your question, what does it take to apply? So the early stages companies can absolutely apply. They should apply on our platform, PropelX.com. There is a link there for founders to start their application process. It's a 2-second process, not 2 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, where we initially just ask them to upload their pitch deck. We do review them. So I want to make it clear that our subsidiary is a broker-dealer. So we are a highly regulated platform, which is very different from some of these other crowdfunding platforms that you might find. So we are expected to be highly curated. So we actually select these companies, we curate them, we put them on the platform after proper compliance reviews and approvals. We also conduct due diligence on the offerings that close. These are all FINRA requirements. So, the FINRA, the Financial Regulatory Authority, requires us to conduct due diligence, to be looking out for investors. So for the early stages, companies should just share their pitch deck. If we decide to move forward, we will be in touch very quickly. But what helps companies succeed online? You should have traction. It shouldn't be, if you don't have traction, we in our selection process will find it very difficult to move forward, right?
And do they have like a minimum? Like, do they need to be doing $1 million a year? Could they be doing $250 a year?
Oh, well, in terms of revenues, oh my God, it's all over the board. It could be zero, right? It could be zero because think about life sciences companies, drug development companies, medical devices. They have to go through the entire clinical trial process. So they could be very big and very mature, but they may still have zero revenues. So deep technology companies often tend to have a longer time to revenue. Think of battery technologies, right? They may have zero revenue until they actually start deploying at large scale, but they could potentially change the world. And when it actually comes, the revenue could come in droves. So to answer your question, do they have to have revenue? No. But do they need to be far enough along their journey on the startup process? Yes, right? So for example, you should definitely need to have a proof of concept. It's not sufficient to just be in the lab. You should have customer conversations. You should have customer traction, if not revenues. If you're a life science company, medical device company, you should be close to an FDA approval, or you should be FDA approved. In many cases, we have FDA approved companies. So we do need companies to be far enough along. And
can you give us an example of maybe a couple of the companies that you've gotten behind so we can get a real idea about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the early stages, let me talk about this company called Brelion, right? Now, so Brelion is what is called an ultra reality company. They're building display technologies, which is immersive display without having to wear a headset. So think of VR, virtual reality. You have to have a heavy headset on your head, right, in order for it to be immersive. But think of a instead of a monitor that surrounds you, that in fact is immersive, but you don't need to wear a headset. And it can have enough depth of view such that it could equal like nine screens stacked on top of each other. So that is very powerful. So this was a display technology that emerged out of MIT, the MIT Media Lab, helped them raise their initial funding, and now they're doing.
Is that kind of like you could be in a store and it would be like a hologram type of thing where maybe the person seems like they're there, but they're not? Would it be something like that?
So yes, depth is one of the things that you can manipulate in order to give that field of view, right? It could be something similar. It's not a hologram exactly. It in fact is a screen that surrounds you, right? But it appears to be coming from far away. So you feel like you're in an environment, not a screen.
So what would you use that for? Like travel or like what would you use that for?
Video gaming, movies. So video gaming is a very important application, but think of trading, right? So what traders need to have is multiple screens. They need to look at multiple screens in order to be making their decisions. Now in a home environment, you typically have one monitor, right? Or maybe you could place two around, another have three, but you have only so much space. Think of a screen that surrounds you, but it appears as though it has multiple monitors stacked on top of each other on every side, right? So that makes trading a lot easier because it's giving you that depth of view. So it's ultra reality, really. So whether it's trading, it's video gaming, it's movies, all of these are immersive experiences which they're enabling. And amazing technology company out of MIT, we helped them raise funding. Now they were in their seed, then we did help them in their Series A as well. And their Series A was led by, it was a big, it's one of Lockheed Martin, what am I saying? Lockheed Martin, so a big defense technology company, so defense applications, right? So technology companies like this was an fairly early stage company. We've done later stage companies as well, fintech companies.
When you say defense, does that mean this would be used in a military situation?
Not in an active combat situation, possibly, but certainly in military decision-making rooms, for example, where you see multiple screens stacked one on top of the other, and you have big screen situations. So yes, absolutely. That's just one example. And then, I don't want to give people the perception that we only do early stage. We did the Series A, but we've done lots of later stage companies as well. We did Repurpose, for example. Now, Repurpose makes compostable forks and knives, right? And they are distributed through all the major stores, whether it's Kroger, Safeway, and Target, Rite Aid, CVS, now Costco, right? So those kinds of companies like Repurpose have tens of millions in revenue, and we're much further along. So we're doing the Series C, for example. We've done fintech companies that were much further along. And in many cases, we get what is called pro rata. So VCs that invest early, they often have the right to invest in later stages, but they're not able to, they have the right, but not the obligation. They're not able to fill that right. We take that right, or we help them fill that right and give them part of the upside. So in this way, we're able to get into later stage deals, which are not available. People are falling over themselves to get in, but we are able to secure access for ordinary investors. So it's very powerful.
That is very powerful. And so these are opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have in just the regular market. And that's the whole point. And the other reason that people need to diversify into it is where you said it is a big risk, it also can be a huge reward. And that is the whole reason to do it, where, in the stock market, it's kind of limited for the most part, how much you could make. It's very regulated, where this is kind of more of a frontier, but a very exciting one that not many women have been involved in the past, but they've missed out on it being a very lucrative investment opportunity that, a lot of women have not been aware of. And so I know we're all trying to pull back that curtain and show women this is an area of investing that you should be in, because it can be extremely lucrative for your portfolio. I take it that you've had some huge success stories.
You've had some successes also. In fact, I just want to highlight, because we're talking about investing in women-led companies. Well, Repurpose Compostables is a woman-led company.
Oh,
Very
yay. I love to hear that.
powerful CEO. I'm very proud to have been part of her journey. And, Lauren Groper, I wish her the greatest of success. And we'll be so proud when she has a massive exit, but, keeping our fingers crossed for that. But yeah, so yes, we've had several exits as well, to answer your question. And there have been,
for the average person that might not even understand what that means, it means when the company exits, when they sell to a larger company, that's when the investors typically make a significant amount of money, right?
Yes, absolutely. So as you correctly said, you invest in a company and that company either sells or goes public. You may die also. I mean, there is that risk, but risk is a part of investing. So people should take that in its perspective. Stocks are way riskier than bonds, right? They may fall in value. And that's what people tell you, that your investment may fall substantially in value. And alternatives are riskier than stocks. So it's all on a continuum. If you really want to just invest in the safest thing, you should invest in treasury, inflation protected securities, maybe what are called TIPS. Not everyone has access to those, or keep your money in a bank or under your mattress, whatever. Those are the safest things to do with money. But we must understand, whenever we even invest in a bond, we are taking on risk.
Sure, absolutely.
Part of that whole return.
Yeah, all investments have a risk, no doubt about it.
Exactly.
And this one just has a potential upside that exceeds most others. And that's the point, right?
Exactly.
Right. And so a lot of women are starting their own funds. I know that you take people's funds and invest it in existing funds and financial institutions and VCs and opportunities that they otherwise might not have. So if we know some women-led venture capital firms, you would probably be interested in connecting with them to bring investors to those funds, right?
Possibly. So that is something that's on the horizon. So we also run our own venture capital fund, Newton Fund. So yes, we're also active investors ourselves. But yes, we'd love to connect with any women investors, whether they're leading venture capital funds, leading hedge funds, whether they're entrepreneurs themselves, founders who've had successful exits. I think we bring value to all of those people, and not just women, of course, but here we're talking about Invest in Her. I really believe, and I'm a big supporter of everything to do with women, of course, being a woman myself. So yes, we bring great value to, whether it's VCs, we love to connect with them, women who are VCs, founders, entrepreneurs, anyone in the investing world.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, thank you so much for telling us about PropelX. I hope people will go check it out, see if it's an investment platform for them. I definitely know some fund managers I want to connect you to, and and see what kind of things we can do together. It's all about women supporting women, right? In my world, and what I'm focused on here with She Angel Investors and Invest in Her, and our movie coming out called Show Her the Money. So yeah, I'm just so happy to be talking to you as a female co-founder, CEO. Thank you for what you're doing. This sounds like an amazing platform. How do people find you on social? I know you're on LinkedIn, right?
Yes, I'm also on Twitter. LinkedIn is my main social medium of choice, but I'm also on Twitter. And then, of course, I'm available on email, swati@propelx.com. Drop me an email. It may take me some time to respond, but that's the social media, LinkedIn.
Okay, great. So look for Swati on LinkedIn. And of course, you can connect with me, Catherine Gray, there. On Instagram, we are Catherine Gray at Invest in Her, and She Angel Investors on all of the media platforms. And we have our new Instagram, which is Show Her the Money, the movie. So Swati, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, and thanks for all the great work that you're doing to democratize investing for women and others. And just really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Thank you for having me, and best wishes for Invest in Her, for the movie that's coming out, which I'm very excited to see.
Thank you so much. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Make it a great day. Remember to invest in her. Remember, if you're looking to launch a business or grow your business, check out our e-course, 6 Ways to Fund Your Business, available at sheangelinvestors.com.